Right, Harley-Davidson, same on a WLA. This is off of a U, Alex's U with a sidecar. 32E, 3-brush generator, all exactly the same. For some strange reason, he said he was riding it down the road and there was a big metallic noise and the generator light came on, so it wasn't charging.
Yeah.
So when we took it apart, the armature, end of the armature snapped. And looking at it, you can't tell. The only way one of these would snap is if the shaft has seized in here somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not a cog driven issue, because it would just, the engine would stall or whatever. So that obviously wasn't turning that enough to form enough charge.
Yeah.
But when you look at it carefully, if something has literally just broken, yeah, you can see that the metal will be shiny. If you look at this, it's dark in where it was, so I think it possibly was on its way out beforehand and it's just given up the ghost, you know. Like that bit that's in there fits over that bit, but that's dark material. You know, because this is hardened steel, it's not cast or anything like that. So if it had literally just cleanly snapped, you'd see shiny metal.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's
it's been
probably was
slowly
damaged beforehand. So basically we've got a new armature coming, so we'll just strip it down. So we've got a new end cover coming because that's all chewed up, new spring coming, new armature coming, that's your end plate. So what you've got in there is 3 sets of brushes. One's adjustable, so I'll show you where that is. Get a screwdriver. This has been rebuilt before by the looks of it. Right, so that's your end plate. So that's your 3rd brush. What that does, you can adjust it. See those slots? Yeah? So you can move that way or that way. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that, it doesn't increase your charge, it increases the amount of amps that's going back into the battery.
Right.
So it won't, it's either charging or it isn't. It's the amount of amps. If you set it too high, it'll boil the battery. Roughly, it's normally I do them, that gap there between that hole and that one, about 1/4 inch. That's normally where I set them up at. That seems to be about right there.
Okay.
So that comes out. So you've got all these wires and everything, which are easily accessible. So you can get that one out of the way, yeah? So you can't really wire one of these up wrong. You've just got your 2 field coils. So we've got a new set of brushes coming as well. That one doesn't look too bad. But while it's apart, for the sake, I think they're €15, you might as well put new brushes in, it's done then, you know? So that's your 3rd brush. And these, the way they work, that one goes over there. That screw holds that end cover on, look. It's just a little bent cover, so that when you push them together, that hooks in that slot and you screw that to that.
Sorry, just show that again.
So we've taken that wire off of there, yeah? On there. That's your contact there to there. So to get them out, you just literally pull them out and there's a little slot in there, that's it.
Okay.
So that hooks in there and you screw it up and that lets you take your brush out. Yeah, they are quite worn, they're normally about that long. So it wouldn't go amiss putting a new set in. Round to this side. Yeah, they're quite worn though, so worth putting a new set in.
What point is it worth replacing?
Well, if it does stop charging and it isn't anything mechanical gone wrong, then you know the brushes.
How long do they start off at?
I'm not exactly sure. I might have one over there. Let's go and have a look. Might have one in the pile of bits. So that's a new one. So it's fairly worn.
Oh yeah, that is.
You know. Put those in there, don't get lost. Right, okay. Let's get a little pair of snips and cut those cable ties off. Right, that's your earth winding, that one. Take that earth wire off of there. Right.
It's something you've got to be really careful of.
No, not really. Like I say, normally they're different coloured wires and you can just pick up where they came off of.
Yeah.
But all you do is trace them to either side of your coils, in your field coils in there. One's for normal running and one when you put the lights on, it's called a shunt coil.
When if you are taking these cable ties off and you accidentally snipped through the wire, would that be terminal, or would it?
As long as you don't cut it in, as long as you don't cut it in half and it's insulated again, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you want to keep them a full wire if you can. Alright, let's do that up in there. Because it's knackered anyway, so I ain't going to do it any harm. Right, okay. Now, see, immediately there's an issue. Bearing is loose in the end of there. So that could have been a cause of it. I know that nut pulls it back, but there shouldn't be any play in that. Those washers that they've put in there look like they're steel, because if they hit between each side of those commutators on that, it's negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. That's what causes the charge, yeah? So if you wire one of these up back to front, it'll make an electric motor.
Right.
So that's how you know. But those being steel, if they're touching on the back end of that between the mica, then it won't work. But it was charging, to be fair, so somewhere. Make it a blade, hold on. Nicely chewed up screws. Doubt whether they'll come undone very easily at all. Oh, blimey, I lied. So that basically goes through, holds that steel part to that aluminium part there, yeah?
Yeah.
Bigger screwdriver. So clearly the heads on those are knackered. So we'll get some new ones of those, or machine some up, or do something with it, because they won't last very well at all. Now get a hammer, give her a little tap to free the casing up. Right, so what you've got to do, you wiggle your wires out as it's coming out. Right, so that is your two contacts, and That's one field coil, that's the other field coil. So it's very obvious the way to wire it up when you look at a diagram, yeah?
Yeah.
You've got a locating pin in there, look. So that goes into that little hole there.
Yeah.
So you can't put that in wrong.
Yeah.
The only other thing to check on these is obviously clean it all up. And this whole section here where your two wires go in, yeah? One goes to relay, one goes to a switch. So that, see that there? That's cardboard.
Okay.
So you've got to make sure that all of that is insulated properly. So you just do a continuity test, yeah, on an ohm meter. Whether that, if you touch one side of your tester on that and the other side on that and it makes a beeping noise, you've got a dead short.
Right.
So you have to make sure that they're isolated, both of those, yeah? So that's the only thing that could basically go wrong with that, apart from the bearing. But this looks like it's had new bearings, but we'll strip it all down and have a looky see, you know? That should come off of there. When you tap it off, that plate just lifts off.
Okay.
Okay. So that's your inner plate. And there are your bearings. Don't feel too bad, but we're getting two new bearings because we've ordered the parts because you don't know why it's seized. It could have got hot, locked up on the armature and just snapped the shaft. But I think that's just fatigue, to be honest with you. And that's your armature. Give him a tap out. I think no, there's no O-ring on it. We're not going to damage it because it's busted anyway. So there's no signs of that rubbing, like where a bearing's collapsed or something like that. Normally these things, smells a bit burnt. Normally these things are mega expensive, but these are only, what, 150 euros, Rob?
124, I think.
124 euros, which is nothing realistically. Right, well, they're aluminium, those washers, so as long as they're small enough to clear the flutes on that. I don't want to squirt it in your camera.
No, it's all right.
Right, so those washers are small enough not to form a contact between each segment of that, yeah?
Okay.
So they weren't doing any harm at all. Clearly the end of that has busted off, but what you've got to remember is that's probably 1943.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a miracle that half of them work in the first place. You can put these in a lathe, because you've got a centre dot, and there's a centre dot in the end of that. See? And you've got one in that end.
Yeah.
So you can put them in your lathe on live centres, put a dog bar on it or put the nut on there or whatever, and you can machine down these if they're really worn, yeah? So you just get your lathe and just cut the thou off of that, and then the thing that's important on them is that is called mica in there. So if that mica's built up, it's all the bits of your carbon and everything all built up in those grooves, yeah? So you need to clean those grooves out.
Okay.
Quite important. So you can set it up with a pointer on your cutting tool and just rotate it segment for segment and just slide across on your saddle on the lathe, just to cut a little groove in it. Don't want to go too deep, but this one's at it anyway. But if you're trying to sort of restore one of these, also as well, what makes it work basically is see all that rust on there.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of that. Sand it back, so it's shiny metal, yeah? But I'm looking at this, I'd say this is overheated as well, because those bits in the middle are sticking out more. Let's get a torch in there. See, again, that's dirty. That's not a pickup mark, that's where they put the field coils in and ground them. So it has been rebuilt at some stage, but whatever went wrong, clearly, I think that's just fatigue, but I wouldn't expect to see those sitting that high above the steels, yeah?
So you can just sort of shave that down?
Probably not, because it'll all to do with, it'll be if this heats up, it'll just overheat the armature. You don't normally see them sticking out like that with score marks on them and stuff like that. So it could have been that. I wouldn't have said that was tight in there though. Right, let's tap that bearing out. So we've got a new one coming anyway. I'd like to see that bearing tighter in that casing, so what I'll probably do is, before the new, you got a cork seal in there as well, a felt seal rather. Oh, it's a split ring, that's right, I remember now. Right, so that's your locator for the felt seal, yeah? That's your felt seal. So all you do, I don't know, a day before you want to put it together, just drop that in some oil and soak it up, and then wring it out, it'll be fine. So that bearing being loose in there, what I shall probably do, the easiest fix, you can use like a thread locker in it or a bearing sealer in it, but just get your centre dot and just put 4 taps in it, and that'll just stop it from moving.
Okay.
That's all you need to do with that. So that's it basically for stripping one down. So we'll test our continuity quickly. So get your test meter, stick it on ohms, set it so you've got a sound reading. So if you touch those two together, that means it's got a dead earth. So that outer casing, so either one of those two, yeah, shouldn't work. Okay, so that's to that brush there, yeah. That should be to that brush there. You touch that on that one, nothing, 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 live on that one, or continuity on that one, nothing, nothing, nothing to the outer case. So that's all good, so you don't have to strip those bits out of there. Yep. Just give it a good clean up, that'll be fine. Check all of your wires on there. So you've got nothing short into earth there. Now these are called field coils. Yep. Basically it's a coil of wire, that's it. So between that wire and that wire you should have continuity, which you got. Nothing anywhere else, nothing there, nothing there. So check those two, that's all good. Nothing there, and there, nothing there. So they're working as they should do. Yeah. So all you want to do before you put it back together, obviously paint it, do what you like with it, get it all looking pretty. See those faces there? Just give them a sand up so there's no rust on them. The less material and shit you've got in there between the armature and those field coils, the better. Just give you a better charge rate and stuff, you know. Yeah. So that's that. Got to get the pin out of there. See that pin?
Oh right, yeah.
That bangs down all the way through the centre of the piece that's actually snapped off. So you've got to get that pin out. So what we'll do is just buzz the end of that side off with the grinder, yeah?
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't just put a screw in the end, really, because it's on a spline shaft anyway. So putting a pin in it's a bit of a stupid idea, but there goes the pin.
There goes.
That. Oh, there you go. 1, 2. That must have been fractured before, because if it's going to break, it'll just shear it off. You wouldn't have that many pieces. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's been broken a long time, I think. So it's just one of those things that on a visual you probably wouldn't see it, but then under load it's just, yeah, you can see all the dirty metal. Look, that's been busted for ages. Pin, but we'll get make a new one of those. They're only soft steel, only a locator, so you make them out of a bit of welding rod. That'll be more than ample. So when you put them back together, rebuild that. On the engine casings, excuse the oil puddle. Right, so that cog comes through that hole there, with on the end of the generator that way. Okay. And what you want, you can pack that up and down, just with shims of cardboard underneath, yeah.
Yeah.
And you want, I think it's 2 to 3 thou backlash on the gears. So if it's up there, you got loads of backlash, yeah?
Yeah.
So the further you bring this one down by reducing your shims into that cog there, you've got no backlash, and you want about 2 to 3 thou. So just by adding cardboard shims up and down on that, what I do is I mount the generator back in the hole, and the 2 screws that go through the outer casing to hold the generator, yeah?
Yeah.
I think it's that one and that one, actually. Yeah, it is, it's that one and that one. Because the bolts are too long, I put nuts on them and pack them off so you can do the generator up tight without with being able to see what's going on, yeah? You don't have to put the outer cover on, so then you can set your backlash up on that properly. Like I say, it should be, I think it's 2 to 3 thousandths of an inch. The only other bit that's like a ventilator oil slinger, forms a bit of sort of pressure in the casing. So that, obviously where that's been wobbling around on there a bit, it's marked that a little bit, but that won't make any difference. That just sits on there, spring loaded, that plate.
Yeah.
Basically it just forms a swirl inside the casing with the holes in there, that's it. So that basically is all you can do with them, realistically. So once we get the parts, we'll get it cleaned up, painted, and then we can whack it all back together.